Hello and welcome to Business Today. I am Siddharth Zarabi and you watching this very special conversation, the future of management education in India. A conversation with Professor Bharat Bhasker, the director of IIM Ahmedabad. As one of the world's most respected business schools, IIM Ahmedabad continues to shape leaders who navigate complexity with clarity. In the current era that we see of rapid technological change, global realignments, and the shift in student aspirations, we will speak with Professor Bhasker on the evolving landscape of management education and the Institute's vision for the future. Welcome to Business Today, Professor Bhasker. It's a pleasure having you here with us today. The backdrop to this conversation, viewers, is Business Today's 26th annual special issue that takes you through the state of management education in India and what specific schools, universities, colleges in this space are doing. And for Professor Bhasker with us today, the question that I really have to start off this conversation is to get him to answer my question on the state of management education in India at this stage. How would you describe, Professor Bhasker, the state of management education? Is it in a good state for our objective of economic growth and Atmanirbhar Bharat?
Yeah, Siddharth, few things are happening. Our management education ecosystem is well in place, but the changes which are happening are quite drastic in nature, especially with the arrival of artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and robotics and what we call the autonomous systems. There is going to be a profound impact on the workplace and the service industry, the manufacturing as well. And with that kind of change which is going to take place, the management education also has to immediately begin to echo what is happening in the actual workspace, because ultimately you are creating people or leaders for that workspace which is going to be the future workspace. Now, fundamental challenge in front of the management education is how quickly we are able to transform the current management curriculum into the new curriculum which incorporates and reflects on the changing reality of the world. There's also a challenge related to the uncertainty which is going around the world, related to the new trade practices or new trade regimes which are coming in, how our education prepares the management graduates to deal with this kind of an uncertain environment where the supply chain, global supply chains are going to take a different kind of a shape. Of course, one disrupted by the information technology and all these new technologies coming in place. Other side, the new kind of barriers which are getting into the way of even flow of the information. So our management education schools have to immediately begin to catch up with all that. As I said, we are in good shape. We are doing it at a good pace and trying to keep pace with the changing technology over a period of time. But the pace has to be enhanced and we have to work doubly hard to catch up and remain relevant to the current business environment which is unfolding in front of us.
Professor Bhasker, over the last few years, there's been a transformation in your institute's syllabus and all attached areas. Can you tell us about what is in the pipeline for the future with regard to adapting to this world constantly changing that you just described?
Few things which have been doing over a period of time, because if you remember, our curriculum is actually a reflective of the industry. What we say that we don't teach you as per the curriculum the certain subjects. We actually prepare the curriculum which is going to transform you from a normal whatever graduate to a business leader. And this transformational journey, there's a lot of industrial input which comes in, our industry input which comes into our syllabus. And one of the mechanisms by which we do it is the case methodology, which is the reflective of the actual scenarios. By adopting the latest cases, the reflection of the industry immediately begins to come in. But more importantly, there's a technology arriving, and sometimes the industry, when not adopting to that stage, we have to be leading to certain extent the industry in adopting those kind of technologies and prepare our leaders, our students to become that leader. When they go to the industry, they will be transforming the industry with the adoption of the newer technology, etc., and so on. And that's why, from in the past year or so, you will see we have actually introduced many courses which are very technology led, including the courses how HRM is going to be impacted by the role of AI. How fintech industry is taking root, and how AI is going to transform the fintech industry itself now in today's environment. We've also introduced courses related to, of course, global supply chain management in a current environment, reflective of the technology as well. The whole payment system of the world is changing, and one of the driver of that change is, of course, India through our UPI technology. Now, how the world, the financial markets are going to change, how the financial transactions are going to change, how we have already led the world, and how that money can be unlocked, because now you've seen the banks are now coming up with the T plus zero payments. Our stock market already went from T plus delta payment system, which nobody in the world has been able to do. So we are also trying to reflect all that mechanism and what is going to be the impact of that mechanism in the life of a overall economic growth. Our students are being prepared to absorb all that information and be ready for the future business places and so on. So thus sometimes is the industry which is leading us, our transformation of the students, by as we continue to adopt their practices. And in the cutting edge technology field, we prepare our students so they are ready when they go to the industry, they transform the industry by adopting the newer technologies into their business environment.
Professor Bhasker, therefore, with all these changes, what would you say will define a good manager? What will managerial leadership mean in this rapidly changing and evolving world?
There are certain characteristics the new manager has to have. Of course, one is dealing with the uncertainty, which is that volatile world which we are living in. So the VUCA adaptability is is of a prime importance for the tomorrow's manager or who's going to get into the industry in a current environment. Second, the fundamental shift has happened that the they have to be well adapt to the technology itself. The earlier distinction of a leader remaining even slightly a step away from technology was possible. But today, technology has come to the core of all businesses. And thus, without understanding the core, you will not be able to carry out transformation in any organization wherever you go. So, today's manager fundamentally has to be technology, I will use the word literate, but technology aware as well as technology savvy. That's the important aspect is going to be. Because you look at the tomorrow's world, as I would say, that tomorrow's industry, and I would not say it's a tomorrow's industry, much of the industries are a high-end industries already undergoing that transformation, is that if you look at the automobile manufacturing or any manufacturing industry, the nimble robots are coming. The manufacturing sector now sees the humans and robots working together. Very early example of that was Amazon's fulfillment centers, where the robots were doing the part of fulfilling along with the human beings, etc., and so on in their warehouses. Today, that has moved to a next stage. In many of the manufacturing setup, you will see this transformation happening where nimble robots working alongside human being, where robot is sensitive to the activities of human being. They don't run into each other. Now, this workplace or a new assembly line is going to be a different kind of assembly line. That means it will have impact on the whole management education setup, that how nimble robots and the human beings will interact together, probably leading to a, rather than standardized product output, a customized product output we are going to come out of this kind of environment. Now, these are the fundamental changes which are happening in the environment. The bigger how the workplace itself will change, and many of the jobs which will be not available or will be done by autonomous systems. One of the great examples you have all seen and we are all familiar with many of these autonomous cars, which are also called driverless cars. Now, these vehicles will take the coordinates from you, show up at your door, and drive you at the destination. Now, that means the traditional job of a driver or traditional job of a not only a taxi driver but also a truck driver are going to see a fundamental shift. Now, but at the same time, it brings a new kind of information visibility to people that where my inventory is moving in a truck, which place is at least, what are the obstacles in its way, etc. and so on. Now, all that has to be incorporated, this information is incorporated in the setup of decision making. So, a data-driven decision making will take a next level of the lead, and where the managers have to be prepared and ready to move into that next level of a lead. So that's another fundamental change which is going to happen in the environment, and we need to be bracing and preparing our management graduates with that kind of a futuristic environment.
Professor Bhasker, therefore, as far as the entire Indian management education ecosystem is concerned, do you think it is well positioned in this ongoing transition that we are seeing?
I would say there are always layers of the management education, or management education institutes. Now, yes, the top end management education institutes are actually preparing themselves and trying to brace the new reality and trying to transform as quickly as possible to the new reality. Of course, there will be places on a layer of management education which is always lagging behind and takes some time to catch up. So I think we are well positioned for the transition era, but in the transition era, the whole transition has to happen not only at the top end management education institutes, but of others as well. And that's where the top management education institutes have to play a role in also, I would say, educating, but also bringing them along the other management education institutes ecosystem, so that overall country's economy gains rather than only the top management educations are able to provide for the high-end industry and others are slightly left behind.
Professor Bhasker, industry engagement with business schools often centers around placements. Now, the latest Business Today survey results, and like I told you viewers, this is the 26th year that we are doing this. Right. They show that the current state of the economy has impacted placements in the recent past. Two parts to the question, sir. What is your own sense about the overall placement situation that we are likely to see, and more importantly, given the situation, what can industry and academia do better to help overcome any dips that we might be seeing?
Right. Few things which are important. One is that the industry interaction or engagement should not be limited to the placement alone. Because placement is the outcome. We all desire that a great outcome should come there. The engagement has to happen at the transformation of the student stage itself. That means the student should be also given the knowledge, what are the current practices of the industry. And that's why if you may notice that in our curriculum, the core syllabus is actually taught by our IIM Ahmedabad faculty. In the elective models, we bring in lots and lots of practitioners there. So one aspect where we engage with the industry very heavily is in the course teaching itself, by bringing practitioners from the industry into the classroom. Second part is that faculty also has to remain up to date with the industry practices. Of course, research is one part, and a third part, what are the new technologies coming in, what is going to be impact of it, where the faculty acts as a thinker and tries advancing the frontier of the knowledge. And that our faculty has been doing a wonderful job. But the second part, we also do a great job, a very, very distinct job compared to many other institutions, is the engagement with the industry through the executive education as well as the consulting. In consulting practices, we actually get into the industry, look at their problems, look at their challenges, and then try devising the solutions for the current challenges side by side, or rubbing shoulder with the industry professionals. Where our faculty also gains the practical knowledge. What are the difficulty in taking that theory and putting it to the practice? Executive education is another place where what I say that I don't think industry people come to learn from us. We do impart education to them, but at the same time we do lots and lots of learning from the industry people, because the classroom interactive discussion, they bring out the nuances what is happening in the industry, and the faculty tries giving them the knowledge about the latest things which are happening and what they should be doing, etc. and so on. In the process, two-way knowledge exchange takes place. And when this two-way knowledge exchange takes place, we are able to bring that knowledge to the classroom also. So that's why industry engagement has to be a holistic engagement, starting from the classroom, going all the way to consulting as well as the executive training, and then coming back from executive training and consulting learning by the faculty back to the classroom. And this is what creates the complete environment where the good leaders can be produced. The placement as an outcome will automatically begin to happen if the institute is involved and in an integrated fashion with the industry. The challenge of the placement gets much mitigated or much simplified in that kind of environment. So that is our model, and I think more or less Management Education Institute should focus with the industry and work with the industry at a multiple layers rather than only connecting with them for the placement, because at that point of time industry comes and evaluates whether candidate is ready or not. In this overall engagement, they already know what is the state of the students and how industry ready they are at certain point of time.
Professor Bhasker, uh, given this backdrop that you have outlined, I just want one more view from you, which is the kind of classroom, management education classroom that we may see in the future. We went through a phase of online only due to COVID, but that has also taught all of us that there might be relevance in a hybrid model of education. I wonder if you have any thoughts on this, that how would the classroom, management classroom of the future look like?
Right. Actually, if you have seen the after COVID and even prior to COVID, with the arrival of information technology, the practical aspect of the blended classroom or a online classroom become a reality. You can give them as good experience and as good an interaction, which is, I would say, very close to the physical classroom. And COVID accelerated that. So there are two reasons why the education will become more and more blended in nature. One is that we are also always believe that a country's economy cannot be driven only by training the fresh people or young people and be able to supply for the requirement of a growing country or growing economy like India. More important is that people who are already in the industry, how are we able to make them ready for the new technology, new changing management practices, as well as prepare them for this transformation journey from a engineering or other aspects of the industry to a managerial aspect of their roles. And that is where IIM Ahmedabad has always underlined that working with the industry at a mid-management to senior management level and always keeping them prepared for facing the new challenges has been an important aspect. Earlier, it was a challenge for the industry also, as well as for us also, to come and together and meet physically all the time. That challenge has been relatively moderated by the technology, and consequently, you see, even the executive education of the senior leaders, etc., happens in a hybrid mode today. Where industry leaders are able to spend certain amount of time on campus, but at the same time, rest of the learning happens while they are carrying out their daily responsibility or everyday responsibility in their jobs, etc., and so on. Second aspect is that it also is a force multiplier. So, in a residential environment, you may not have enough infrastructure. The country's economy, if you are talking about from a 5 trillion to 30 trillion economy, a 6 times growth, will require at least 6 to 7 times growth in the managerial capacity as well. Now, that challenge will not be met by residential requirement itself. And that is why you have seen that at IIM Ahmedabad, we have launched a very successful, now we are on to the second batch already, working with the second batch, and will be ready next year with a third batch of what you call blended MBA program or blended BPGP or blended postgraduate program leading to a management degree. This is meant for working professionals who are in industry, who have already been working with the with the various aspects of the engineering project heads, etc., and so on. But they need to be, their capability as a leadership has to be enhanced, and that's where our role comes in. We are also launching a new program called MBA in Business Analytics and AI, because the modern manager, as I described earlier, is going to be technology enabled and technology savvy. And in order to prepare that, we also have launched, and we don't need to get only fresh graduates there. We actually need to make the current working engineers and managers the technology savvy managers of the future. And that is why we are launching in a blended mode, an MBA in a business analytics and AI, where we will be able to produce these people or transform these people who are technology savvy managers of the future, fully versed with the big data analytics, fully versed with the AI technology, robotics, role of robotics in the shop floor, etc., and so on, and how autonomous systems are going to transform the global supply chain management, etc., and so on. So that is where we have decided that blended is something which is going to happen, because in order to meet the requirement of growing economy of this country, there is no single physical mechanism by which we can provide that kind of a transformational leadership for the country, which will be able to take this economy from 5 trillion to 30 trillion economy.
Professor Bhasker, then in this scenario, who is your ideal student? What is that profile? And I ask you this in the backdrop of the IIT IIM route that is branded in consciousness, but it's very clear that your institution also is trying to consciously change the composition. But according to you, who is your ideal student in terms of his profile, his academic background and skill set, and also work experience, if I may add?
Right. Ideal, as I said, work experience is easy to answer. At least should have a couple of years of the industry exposure, so they understand the basic dynamics of how organizations work. And we don't have to explain to them if they are coming fresh from the college. They have a difficulty in understanding what the organizational dynamics is. But as far as the IIT IIM route is concerned, IIT students are always welcome, because they have proven their brightness, that they are truly bright and they have worked hard. But ideal student is not necessarily IIT student. Anyone, because the technology today has reached the stage that you don't need to go into the depth of technology. Technology has come to your doorstep, where it says just learn how to apply myself. You see, our motto is Vidya Viniyoga Vikasa. That means development through application of knowledge. So those whose mindset is open, that I will understand the technology or enabling environment, and will be able to work and apply that into the towards the development, is the ideal student. So whether they come from whichever background they are coming from, whether they are coming from commerce background, they are coming from a sciences background, or some arts related disciplines, etc., and so on, they are all ideal students, as long as they have a mindset that technology is not an anathema to them. They don't want to stay away from it. They are willing to adopt and work with that technology and have an open mind. So a person who is bright and has an open mind towards learning is an ideal student for us.
Does the CAT exam help you select the kind of ideal student that you just outlined, sir?
To certain extent, yes, it only is a filter. I don't say CAT exam itself selects you, but then out of lakhs, we have to shortlist a certain number of people, and then we assess this mindset in the what we call the interview, personal interview, and a group case writing, etc. process there. But the CAT exam does test certain ability, that how analytical your mind is. So amongst other abilities, verbal communication ability, verbal abilities, etc., and so on, the key crux for us is that you should have an analytical mindset, because business problems when you are going to face will be solved if you have a truly analytical mind.
Professor Bhasker, in the time that we have left with us on this conversation, I just have a couple of quick questions. One, I want to understand your thought, and this is because you have now ventured into a Dubai campus also. Given the global example as well, certain universities retaining one campus, some having multiple campuses, you now have a Dubai campus. At this stage, how do you assess the pros and cons of multiple campuses versus single campuses?
Truly, India has to show its prowess and become the leader of the global south. You, as a Indian philosophy, we believe in development of one and all. We don't believe in a very whatever what you call the we view for that our development is only important. And when whole global south grows, we are going to grow. And that is why we had a well thought out strategy that why we want to be in Dubai, and that's why we positioned ourselves in Dubai. It also so that the global south can also benefit from our capabilities and grow. It also helps India ultimately because once we are educated through the same model and same kind of thinking, probably lots and lots of trade and lots of business will happen between the global south countries, and we want to be catalyst for that. Now, that is why multiple campus will also be important for us because there will be learning in that campus. How global south businesses think. We'll be writing case studies on understanding the businesses in that environment now and bring that education into the Indian campus. Because we ultimately don't want to prepare leaders which are only going to lead a company which is going to confine its business within India. The company has to grow beyond Indian borders. That means our education should also make them capable of growing beyond the Indian borders. And that is where this is important aspect that multiple campus, meaning that multi-country campuses are going to be important aspect in our growth and becoming a global leader and a global trade leader as well.
Professor Bhasker, 5 years after the new education policy, foreign universities have started setting up some campuses, perhaps not so much. Some people would describe it as lukewarm. What is your own assessment of the entry of foreign management institutions, foreign universities into India?
I would personally say I welcome them for two reasons. One is that our capacity expansion as of now will not be able to match the growth required, the growth which we are planning to go through. And that means lots and lots of new engineering as well as management graduates are going to be required. All the Indian Management Institute or whatever I can call them a top to middle tier institute will not be able to meet the requirement. So this is welcome in a sense they are going to increase the capacity of the educated pool, and we have a huge pool to be educated and prepared for the new economy or upcoming economy. Second part is that anyway, no matter what, whether they are here or not, because there's a shortage of the quality education institutes in India, many of them are going abroad anyway. And when they go abroad, they carry with them or they take away lots and lots of foreign currency along with that. Now, these institutes which are coming in India are first and foremost offering the same education at a lower cost. Second, the foreign currency doesn't go away. Third, so the parents benefit because they are able to get the same education at almost half the price. And rest of the ecosystem expenses also happen in Indian terms. So education will be much cheaper. At the same time, we have to ensure they continue to bring the same quality which they are doing in their parent campus. So our regulators have to be watchful that the only quality campuses come in, and they also bring the quality faculty along with the campus here as well. So it's a welcome from that perspective. As long as quality of those education institutes is maintained, it's going to be a win-win situation for India, because next 20 years we require a huge amount of growth with a growing population or so much youth ready for the education. We require many more quality educational institutes.
Very final question, and this is to do with Indian management education institutions and the overall global perception as well as rankings. Business Today does a ranking now for 2.5 decades and continuing, and there are global rankings as well. Without getting into the specifics, do you think Indian management institutions, including your own institution, Professor Bhasker, need to do something more, perhaps more research to sort of have a far higher placement as far as ranking is concerned globally?
As far as the global ranking are concerned, if you look at research output of Indian management education institutes has come quite far ahead. One of the things which is lacking behind why we are not ranked so high in the global whatever rankings. Indian rankings anyway are already taking care of many of the factors which are good for the Indian institutes. But in the global ranking, because there are lots of components which we will not be able to meet, and we may also, I would say, some of them may not be desirable to that extent to meet, is that how much is your board international in nature? How many of our foreign citizenships you have in the classroom? Now, it's a good to have a multi-passport or multi-country classroom because you learn about the global economy and global trade practices, etc., and so on. But at the same time, we have so many more people to educate in this country. So if we give away all those seats to outside the country, what happens to our own youth, which also requires to be trained, etc., and so on. So if you look at, we are actually bottom ranked or whatever, or very low ranked on these factors. When it comes to other factors, even today, if you look at, I don't know, FTR, because most of those rankings, IIM Ahmedabad in a salary earned on a purchase price parity basis is the number one institute even today. Globally, we our purchase price based salary, whatever average salary or mean salary is higher than rest of the world. Now, when it comes to internationalization, meaning that having international member in board, international members in our faculty, international members in our classroom, I think all these three parameters we are at the near bottom, somewhere very low. So these are the what you call the inherent barriers which force us not to be at the top, and those people will focus on because that's where their strength is. I think it's time that some of our Indian ranking systems try to attain the global status, where we look from our lens that what is going to be the best management institute from our perspective. So all the rankings are based upon the Western countries. Why can't India, as a large ecosystem amongst multiple ranking places, can try attempt to be the global ranking framework provider for the world itself?
Well, that's a very interesting and good thought that you are leaving us with, Professor Bhasker. And I will take the liberty of saying that we hope to meet with you to understand this idea further. And Business Today, as an entity that has been doing very credible, very solid rankings for 2.5 decades now, we will try and incorporate your advice and suggestions to see how we could expand the ambit and the scope and go global. As always, thank you very much for your time with us today and for giving us this overview of the state of management education in India. You can catch this entire interview in Business Today magazine as well as online on businesstoday.in. Viewers, with that, I leave it here. Thanks once again and stay with us. We'll come back with more programming on the other side of a very short break.